Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Well,
The bass on that is serious.
it thumps. Good morning, good evening, as the case may be. Thank you for joining us from wherever you are. Today we have Garrette from a number of different projects here to talk about a bunch of random things. So Garrett's really heavily involved in Regen. He's also very active in the NFT space, and I think we're going to dig into a bunch of that today. But first, do need to quickly say thank you to our sponsors, OmniFlix Media Network, which is helping us produce this podcast. They are running a test net right now. They already have 85 validators joining that test net. So if you're interested in being a part of the OmniFlix mainnet, please go join their test net. Check out more at blog.omniflix.network. Some very exciting technology being developed over there. A full stack solution for managing video assets, large quantities of video assets, and minting NFTs off of them, built on top of Cosmos. Please go check it out. And then last but not least, must not forget our sponsor, Sommelier Finance. Please go to app.sommelier.finance today for the easiest way to add liquidity to Uniswap V3. And we're going to be launching our mainnet here very soon. The Gravity Bridge to Ethereum that we've been working on is almost complete. Very, very exciting stuff. So with that riveting intro, Garrette, do you mind telling us a little bit more about where you're, like, what got you into cryptocurrency and kind of what you're working on now?
Yeah, so the how it began story is a good story. It began in 2011 when I was at Hampshire College in Western Mass, and Amherst actually is a very influential place and very important place for the development of cryptocurrency in total, believe it or not. So in 2011, I planned on going to medical school, and I was trading biotech stocks because it was the cheapest vol you can get on the equities market is biotech.
And biotech was hot back then too.
Biotech's always hot. Biotech was hot last year. I had some Moderna calls that that vaccine race. I mean, God. that was a big deal for computational biochemists, for virologists, for people that were studying really obscure mechanisms that just happen to have become relevant. So I was trading that, and I was in a friend of mine's dorm room, and he said, you should just trade this Bitcoin stuff. And I got in on that a little bit. At the time, though, in 2011, Bitcoin's come a long way. And I'm actually writing this piece called 10 Years Later, which is about kind of my relationship with Bitcoin and with crypto over the past 10 years and how it was in the beginning, which was unapologetically illicit and insane. And
that's definitely true.
Yeah. I feel like people don't talk about that enough. And I think that's crazy, honestly.
So I mean, if you go back and read the Cypherpunk Manifesto, that is down with the government, like real crypto anarchist shit.
Yeah. I mean, if you read virtually 90% of the material, if you don't know what Bitcoin Talk forum is, you're definitely of this new breed that's pretty insane, because a lot of the early things on there were so incredibly insane. And I won't go into details about what I saw or whatever, but let's just say it totally turned me off from being involved in it. So I was an avid torrenter. So I did like the idea of being compensated for renting out your computer processing power. And back in the day, you could do that just with a CPU. So started to mine a little bit of Bitcoin casually, pre-ASIC, and then Doge as well. Never Litecoin. I didn't know what Litecoin was, or that Doge was a fork of it at the time.
It's silver to Bitcoin's gold, don't you know, Garrett?
That was the rumor, but I didn't understand it at all. I didn't really understand why we needed to. And also there was such a strange, the Litecoin guys were still like a derivative community of the Bitcoin guys. So it was still insane. At least the Shiba Inu thing was like, all right, like I can live with this.
We're going to go full meme. We're going to embrace the meme. And
I embrace the meme for sure. Yeah. And embracing the meme is what has probably kept me around. Right. So then in 2015, I had a financial technology startup that was focused on climate finance. And one of the VCs that I reached out to about it was this gentleman, Joe Steig. And he used to share an office with Gavin Anderson, who, for those of you who don't know, wrote a lot of the Bitcoin code. And like,
small world,
very small world. So I came to him and I said, I want to do this robo-advisor for climate stuff. And he said, put some Bitcoin in it. And I was like, what? And so I went back and looked, and Bitcoin was mad cheap. And I still, I was probably one of the first people ever to put Bitcoin in a modern portfolio theory return matrix to see how it could complement other assets. Then a friend of mine called me and said, hey, there's this new thing called Ethereum, which is like Bitcoin, but it does stuff. And I was like, what? And I was really excited. So I aped and mined a lot and was super excited about that because world supercomputer, much cooler than just Bitcoin, I guess, generally. So things like Golem and just like these ideas of being able to use like computer processing power. Like there were other networks like Primecoin and Folding Coin that I was basically obsessed with, where like you dedicated your processing power to protein folding, which is really cool. Primecoin also finding prime numbers. And I thought these were just interesting experiments and stuff. And I thought Ethereum would scale for that. And then I got involved in the Ethereum community pretty deep, I guess, and then moved back to New York. I guess. I mean, I don't know. It was just basically Poloniex at the time for me. You know what I mean? But
that troll box, the real
troll
fire.
Box. Yeah, shout out Old Man Kid, Zoblort, like wherever those guys are. I heard Old Man Kid bought an island from like this guy I talked to.
Good for him. That's amazing.
Yeah. So but the memes kept me around for sure. The Vitalik Lambo meme was iconic, and I thought it was super funny. And I was graduating college, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I just knew that I wanted to do stuff in crypto because my financial technology startup got wrecked because these guys from Y Combinator and MIT were doing the same thing, and I had no idea what Y Combinator or Bridgewater was, and so I got thrown.
You have learned.
Yeah, I got thrown into the SF gauntlet, and then I was like, okay, I can't do this. And I also considered SF a fake city and just wanted to move back to New York anyway. So that was chill. And then it was just crypto from there on out. So hoarded Ether, did the ICO stuff, met a lot of amazing people. Bear market came, tried to put Bitcoin on the New York Stock Exchange with a company called Wilshire Phoenix. That did not work. The SEC totally.
Just out of curiosity, have you kept track of the number of Bitcoin ETF attempts there have been?
Yeah, people send them to me. I mean, people actually ask me to do them for them.
I'm sure.
Yeah, people write me in because it's interesting, right? So like I thought the ETF was the man's game. You know what I mean? Like I already did the Ether thing. I thought like making money in crypto land, like you're obviously a builder, you're a core contributor and developer to like at least 4 or 5 companies, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to advance the space and embrace this narrative shift from currency and like Roger Ver style like cup of coffee payment to like digital gold life. And a lot of people in my community thought it was dumb. They were like, no, we just want to like, ape, we want like 100x or something. But I was like, you don't understand. I was like, this is like the man's game. You know what I mean?
This is how we 100x. Like, you don't know.
This
Yeah.
is how, yeah, no, totally. And so it's like, because you want to sell shovels, right? Like, that's why Coinbase is so great. That's why Sommelier is great. I mean, just any time that you can get paid, whether the price is going up and down, is exactly what you want to do. And in many ways, that was the logic behind Atomic Form as well, which is just like, as long as the industry exists, you probably want a way to like view your art and things like that. So that died out. At some point, I met Regen Network, Gregory and Christian and Will. It was just 3 people at a time at the time. Now I think it's like 35 or 40 people. And they basically have kept me in the game, honestly. And people like Jack have kept me in the game as well. I probably would have left because people, in Cosmos, are application specific blockchains are much more interesting than like dApps with bad corporate
Also way less combative too.
Yes.
But so yeah, let's like talk a little bit more about Regen, because I think I met the Regen folks for the first time back in 2018, and I remember I was at a conference in Toronto, and I ended up chatting with Gregory, and I think I ended up chatting with him for like 45 minutes or an hour, and I just remember sitting there and he's like saying words like, "We're going to use satellite imagery on the blockchain in attestations to discern the carbon intensity of different farmers' farms and mint carbon credits based off that." And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, you could do that. And then here we are a few years later, and they're like a lot closer to accomplishing that goal.
Yeah.
Pretty wild project.
Yeah. So Gregory is a genius without a doubt. And I, luckily going to school at Hampshire, I learned that the smartest people might look like the dumbest people. Like, I've been outwitted by farmers and people in dirty overalls more times than I care to admit. Like, there's no more humbling thing than thinking that the guy at Harvard is super smart, but then really the farmer that worked on Watson at IBM in Ireland is like actually smarter and more down to earth and nicer and like, all these things. And so when I was working in climate finance, the biggest problem in climate finance, in my opinion, is auditability of claims. So Jack could go start a company right now called like Jack Zampolin Carbon Verification LLC, like out in Delaware, and basically verbally attest that things happened, right? That like trees were planted or that land was bought.
Trust me, bro. Trust me.
Trust me, bro. The whole industry is low key kind of trust me, bro. And so it felt very inauthentic, and Gregory hit the nail on the head, man. Like he said, we're going to use a hash linked data structure called a blockchain to record every claim behind an asset, and the assets are going to live on the network, and that's that. And that's the most genius. That was one of the most genius things I had ever heard. That was easily one of the most genius things I had ever heard, because that data is so valuable to like commodities traders and to the CFTC and to corporations that just want to know how their yield is going to go, because like corn controls the world. So being able to like use satellite data and soil data to attest claims on yield or sodium bicarbonate, and just like how every market we have is governed by nature. And I think that people don't understand that. And I think Regen is the only company in the world that understands that and is acting on it.
I think that one of the big knocks that you hear from these people who don't believe in global warming against carbon credits is like, they're just making those things up out of thin air. That's the government just deciding things. And like, Regen says, okay, like that's a legitimate criticism. Like, we're going to figure out a way better way to do this that's actually linked to the natural carbon cycle, such that we can incentivize the right things. It's such a great idea. And it's really cool to see it kind of coming into reality. Like, you guys have done some projects offsetting some stuff in crypto recently, right?
Yeah, that's true. So I was fortunate enough to kind of work behind the scenes on some aspects of the natively digital auction at Sotheby's, which was one of the first, may have been the first curated auction for NFTs. Christie's had sold some CryptoPunks before, and one piece by a good friend of mine, Robert Alice. But Robert Alice actually curated the Natively Digital thing along with this guy with Michael, and we were on the phone and we were talking about it, and we were like, we should get Regen, we should offset it with Regen because Regen's carbon credits are NFTs, right? And I think that this is like a vital distinction that is dangerously close to misnomer status, where people say, oh, NFT is art. And it's not really, right? I mean, for those of us that have been in the games, since 2015, the idea of NFTs as kind of ownership for intangible assets like intellectual property, royalties, things like that, we already knew about that. Like that was already a thing. And so
I think the first NFT project I heard about was somebody selling fractional shares in buildings.
Yeah, for sure. So real estate is another great thing to NFT, deeds as NFTs, basically just similar to how Regen does their attestations on the hash link data structure called blockchain. You want to also be able to audit, things like it's really good for illiquid weird assets. And that's actually one of the glorious things about tokenization, whether it's an NFT or ERC20 or just a network on Cosmos or whatever, is that it's like, you're able to take things that have historically been illiquid and kind of allow for more, free trading of them, which ultimately some might say is like beneficial for price discovery and so on and so forth. So, so we got on the phone and proudly offset Natively Digital, which was pretty cool. And that comes at the heels of Microsoft buying Regen's carbon credits earlier in the year as a part of their commitment to go carbon neutral or carbon negative by, I think, like 2030. And yeah, Regen's just slated. I don't know what else to say. They've just done such an incredible job. I can share links for all that. I mean, anybody who has ever wondered about, an F2 pool, I think Regen just did a deal with F2 pool. And it's like,
for Bitcoin carbon offsetting, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. This whole narrative around proof of work being bad for the environment, like that's something that I'm sure back in 2015 when you were working on your thing, someone was like, but bring in Bitcoin. You were like, but they're making a lot of fossil fuels. Like this has been a problem we've known about in the industry for a while, and like cool to see the industry not only coming up with solutions like proof of stake, but also working to try to come up with like climate finance solutions as well. Just the project that Regen is continues to blow my mind, and I feel like especially over the next couple of years, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, everything from exchange modules to collateralization. I mean, one of the most exciting things, just frankly for me, as like a DeFi nerd or like somebody that likes finance, is in a real world portfolio, right? You have like stocks and you have bonds and then you have like whatever, but and ultimately you're probably exposed to commodities in some way. Like timber does extraordinarily well, real assets, and I always prefer real assets to stocks and stuff. And I think that there will be days that will come where you're going to be trading stable coins or whatever that are backed by literal carbon and soil data, and that's like the craziest shit I've ever heard. Sorry, I swore, but like that's really amazing.
It is the craziest shit I've ever heard. Like unreal and amazing.
It's genius. Yeah,
that's the future I want.
Yeah, well, it's the future we need, right? I mean,
it really is.
But like financially or otherwise, right? I mean, it's like you can, So, what else? Is there anything else that I can cover about Regen that you've wondered about, or that? I mean, I don't know if there's like a stream where like people ask questions about.
There are a couple of questions, and we'll get to some of those at the end. Okay. I see David Forson in the chat. Also, hey, David.
Locon David. What's up, David?
Thanks for joining us. But I do think this whole conversation about kind of NFTs and like how they're generically useful for representing all kinds of different things from art to various parts of climate finance gets to what you're working on now. Well, one of the many things that you're working on, because I feel like in crypto you need to have like 10 side hustles.
Yeah, I got 10 jobs for sure.
Yeah, I got jobs.
I have
many of them just responsibility that never ends up paying you.
Yeah,
a
indeed.
dry well that you drilled.
Indeed. People ask me for help and then are like, oh, thanks. And then I'm like, you're welcome. Like,
You're welcome. I push that thing forward. It makes me happy. But you're working on this thing called Atomic Form, and it's tell us a little bit about that.
yeah, so the tagline for the company is Window to the Metaverse. And the more that I've thought about it, the more it's been like, how do we interact with the blockchains? How do we interact with the applications? How do we interact with the arts? And in what ways can we generate and authenticate and create things that we enjoy? I kind of view this artistic expression that we're seeing now as a renaissance, total no pun intended, but like a dramatic shift in how we can treat the interdisciplinary aspects of digital assets and networks in total. So what started off as just a very earnest attempt for Isabel and I to display the things that I was spending a lot of money on by supporting my friends like Jose Silva and Robert Alice and Thank You X and Fawocious, and just kind of like back in December and August kind of ish or October, where these things were like it didn't moon yet. It wasn't like parabolic like NFT mania.
Yeah.
And
I mean, NFTs weren't like, there was a certain point like NFTs became cool, and then Beeple suddenly sold something for like $70 million.
yeah, the Beeple thing. Yeah, the Beeple vibes are weird. But all that aside, we wanted to create a framing solution and a hardware and software stack, like a full stack might be the term, for kind of digital rights management and also like just enjoying your stuff. So we put that out into the world that we were taking pre-orders, and we got a really surprising amount of interest from not only collectors but galleries, hotels, film studios, and it points to a larger revolution, I think, where from a corporate and like business development perspective, there are tons of like companies that are just sitting on IP, right? I mean, and that's like why Disney exists. Disney really is an intellectual property business. And
one of the biggest,
if not the biggest. They just buy Marvel, they buy Fox, they say we're going to open up a Simpsons theme park. Star Wars, like what? So they spend tons of money. Like the IP industry is huge in entertainment, and so what we saw a lot of inquiries about that we didn't expect, which was like people like want to take that IP on their balance sheet and make NFTs out of it because it's a very cheap approach to merchandising. And it's also just kind of this new wave of collectibles. And you can do exciting games like Parallel NFT, company near and dear to my heart. The founder is actually friends with some of Cosmos leadership, like Toronto, small world vibes. And they're making trading card games.
Did they used to work on a blockchain game?
I'm pretty sure that the team, I mean, they're working on a blockchain game now, but one of the founders there definitely has a career in crypto. But I don't know.
I think they used to share an office with the Toronto Cosmos folks.
Oh, really?
Yes, I'm pretty sure, because like I remember the art in that office, and I was like, this stuff is sick. And I was just looking at the Parallel NFT stuff. I was like, I feel like I've seen some of this.
It could be.
Maybe. Yeah.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. So those guys are legends, but yeah, so the Atomic Forum experience or whatever has been wild. And hardware businesses are hard, but we've strived
global chip shortage.
Shout out global chip shortage. The Wikipedia page I send to like all of our investors. They're like, "What's the lead time?" I'm like, well, "I'm just gonna send this to you." I'm like, there's like a doc. There's like a whole thing. But the user experience for AF is pretty cool. You'll go to the website. and either via subdomain or /URL, tie your MetaMask or your Temple wallet. Eventually, we'll support Tezos. I don't think that'll come at the very beginning. And for the things that you own, that you verifiably own, you sign the message, and then you can select and you can display on the screen. And then we have like a cool button that pulls up the provenance data and essentially verifies that the same network that is hosting it is the same network that is connected to the MetaMask account or whatever that owns it. And then there's like queries back and forth. So if you remove it from your wallet, you can't display it anymore and stuff like that, because we wanted to make it so that if you own stuff that you really like, you know, you should be able to display it in a nice way. And that's turned into a lot of amazing conversations from again, like movie studios that want to make IP out of that. And you know, basically so that you can put your collectibles on the wall. Like movie theaters hit us up and we're like, yeah, I think we're just going to do NFTs instead of movie posters now. Like basically any commemorative event that you can think of, we've been contacted about. It's been, I don't know, it's just been like an awesome experience. There's a few deals that we're working on that I don't think I can talk about yet. But you'll know them when you hear them. Yeah. But it's nice. It's really nice. And it's been a lot of fun, you know, just being in the art space, I think.
Yeah.
For
I
sure.
mean, one of the things that I always think about with this NFT thing is, you know, over time, fewer and fewer people have had to work in agriculture, you know, especially with the information revolution and the amount of automation we have now. Fewer and fewer people have to like actually produce the things that we make, and more people are pushed into sort of ephemeral production and, you know, working on software, working on art. And the more and more this art and culture takes a role in our lives, the more and more we need new ways to appreciate it and display it. And I think that the NFT art space especially, and sort of what you're working on with Atomic Form, is really part and parcel of that. Not only that, the Regen thing too. And that's sort of like moving from farmers to digital and like bringing that back to the land too.
No, it's a total vibe. I mean, it's insane because it's like, you know, with regards to Regen, right? One of the biggest parts of Regen is kind of the disintermediation of farmers, carbon credit guys, and the sale of the credit, right? And it's like, you know, brokers destroy the world. People that charge you to do anything to advance your business or human productivity destroy the world. Like, cut the middleman all the time, because it's like, stop it. Like, if you're going to sit there and you're going to say like, yeah, well, you're a farmer, you have great data, I'm going to take 20% of that data, even though it's your farm and you've literally broken your back to build it. It's like why would you do that? Like, nobody wins in that, right? I mean, well, there are winners and it's everybody gets a little piece, but there should be bigger pieces. And one of the things that I'm excited about, obviously we'll have a relationship, Atomic Form will have a relationship with Regen to do offsetting work. And Gregory has some far out ideas about like how we can, make unique art pieces that are representative of specific, you know, trees or plots of land, and like have NFTs that basically double as a asset and as an art piece, and what that will mean. And just like, and you can just do all this insane stuff. Like, Jack,
I think Uniswap V3 kind of pointed the way on that with their like little curve NFT thing, NFT art pieces, and you can easily imagine a GIF of the land being regenerated. It also is the NFT that is the carbon offset. Like, that's super cool.
It's super cool. And that's why I'm about the window to the metaverse life, because it's like, NFTs as a way of displaying data, period, is the coolest thing ever. Like, if I want to monitor my Uniswap V3 positions on my Atomic Form frame, why not? Like, why not? Like, why not? Like, because it's data representation and visualization is art, really. Like, and you know, and Brendan Dawes is the artist that I love that does a fantastic job of this, where he takes like the population density of towns and maps it to the names of the towns, like Sydney or New York. He also does some generative art around fight scenes, like in Kill Bill or in or like Tekken, I'm pretty sure. And that's cool. And then like one of my favorite things that pits it all together is video games. Like, I'm a huge gamer. Like, I play video games all the time. And you know, we got approached by two guys that are building these games on BSC, and they're like, oh my God, like, we would love it. Because anybody that's ever played an RPG knows that there's like some super rare loot, some super rare like skin or whatever, and then, you know, it's amazing to have the chain verify that you have ownership of like rare in-game items, and then also be able to display it. Because Lord knows I would display the crazy stuff I've found in video games if you know. And it's just, I don't know, man, it's just great, you know. And one of the things that Jack and I've talked about kind of outside of like this particular like broadcast or whatever is like how we can make atomic form displays and modules that are also validators for networks, and pull up the data associated with your node, and then have artists come in and then like make cool visualizations of it. Like, I think that's amazing. I think that,
you
that's
know,
cool.
that like it's very kind of related to this idea that I've had since I got into crypto. I started my career in tech and cloud, and you know, you see this incredible clustering technology and the ability to run these, like, you know, you essentially just plug in a machine and then you've got more compute capacity and you can do all kinds of stuff with that. And that technology in the open source is kind of continuing to accelerate. And in my mind, the logical end game to this is like, we all run clusters of compute in our house. Mm-hmm. And like having a visualization into that, like there's a bunch of ways that you can sort of offer visualizations into that. But, you know, that's in your like wanting to sell your compute capacity, and you started mining, and like all the different ways we do that now, and like how that might look in the future. Yeah, it's kind of an unformed thought, but yeah.
It's going to look super incredible because we'll have modules like Regen that pluck carbon credits out of some reservoir and offset your activity like an all-in-one thing, like, and you'll net out. And it's, I mean, it's, I don't know, it's just limitless. You know what I mean?
It really is.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that that's the most exciting part of it. You know, not to offend the artists, but I would say that like the art stuff is like really just a very small fraction of like what we're going to see, in the way that remittances and stuff was a very small fraction of what we see with blockchains in total.
Yeah. I mean, I think even many of those artists would say that figuring out a better way to fund regeneration of the earth and to become better stewards of the earth is the project of the 21st century in a lot of ways for us as humans. And like, this is one way that some people are going to try to figure it out. Like, I'm personally really excited about it.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I was with a pretty well-respected artist yesterday, and you know, he's working on a massive carbon project. You know, like he has to go to the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund and stuff like that to get the money for it. Like, it's that big. It's like, it's just unreal. Like the world that we're entering. Like even this morning, I saw that Zuckerberg, with all of his, you know, weirdness and, you know, scandal, I feel like it's such a loaded name now, but, you know, said that Facebook was basically becoming a metaverse company. And that's insane to me, that like we're there, like we are there. Like it is like your board meetings, you know, and how all of this was perpetuated by COVID and like the remote, you know, work and the nomad stuff. And like, I mean, you know, I think you know a thing or two about the nomad life yourself. So it's
whenever yeah, it really is. Whenever I hear Zuckerberg these days, I always think of him riding that wakeboard with the American flag Did you see that video?
Yeah. These guys
Very
get so
odd.
tone deaf. It's crazy. I don't understand it.
Very odd.
Very
Anyway,
strange.
we do actually have a few audience questions, so I do want to get to a few of those before we continue here.
Oh, okay. But we will continue because I have questions for you too, Jack. It's
yes,
not,
please.
this
Absolutely.
is a two-way street, sir.
That sounds great.
Okay.
So Pramod Rohit, and please forgive me if I've mispronounced that. Pramod has asked a question on the last 10 shows. So thank you, Pramod. Great work, Garrett, on the carbon offset with Regen NFT. Apart from art, not media, what use case of NFTs do you think can bring more adoption to crypto than DeFi?
Like, what do I think are non-DeFi and non-art? Oh, cool. It's actually right here. I can just read it. So one of the first things that I wanted to do was intellectual property rights with biotech. So there's this thing called the Valley of Death, which is a horrible place. And it's where people find mechanisms like for like a very rare drug. They're called orphans, right? For like acute, for like
this is from Alpha Leak right here, Garrett. This is yeah.
Well, this is one of the first things I wanted to do in crypto. It was 2016, and I had just left Columbia Medical School. I worked at a lab there, the Mike Gershon lab. Look him up; he's a genius. And one of the biggest pain points in the lab for me, intellectually and developmentally, was that you need $40 million to do anything. Like, you can have the best intention in the world, but like ultimately, pharma and companies like Columbia Medical School, like they're businesses, you know what I mean? They, in the way that the United States is actually a business, and that's like a scandalous thing or whatever, these things are businesses and they hoard IP. And you know, if I go to Harvard and I become a doctor, all of my lab work, all of my findings are owned by the school. And you know, this is a big part of, I think, the crypto revolution or whatever, is owning your own labor in a very tangible way. There are challenges, of course, with like the FDA. Like I'm hard pressed to believe that there's going to be an FDA DAO anytime soon that will review your work. But the biggest thing that I think the industry is missing, and what I truly believe is going to be one of the biggest things, is funding orphan drug development via this. So, like I was saying, and distracted myself with my anecdote, orphan drugs like acute lymphocytic leukemia have very low incidence, which means they affect 1 out of 100,000 people maybe. But you're basically born allergic to yourself. It's a miserable existence. You're going to die. Some people die when they're like 3 years old. It's tragic. But Pfizer and Big Pharma can make way more money pushing heart disease drugs and reactive medicine instead of preventative medicine. So that's why, you know, you get ads, and this is illegal in other parts of the world, by the way. You get ads for antidepressants, you get ads for heart disease.
People from Europe think it's insane.
It is insane. I mean, even the fact that you can go to Walmart in the US and buy melatonin, like you can just buy neurotransmitters off the shelf, is insane. Like, it makes no sense. Like, it's really weird. Like, and I think that if there was one thing that I would want to see, it would be people creating DAOs with medical schools and with private labs and with VCs to fund orphan drug development, because we see people in crypto raise 2 to 10 to 40 million all the time. We see it all of the time. And I wanted to build this scientific autonomous organization, but no doctors would join it and no PhDs would join it. And being able to do that and like link your research to the data structures and be like, yeah, this is the Western blot, this is, you know, the PCR finding and stuff like that, and then developing IP around a drug and then selling that IP to people that can actually develop it, like that would be my number one thing that I would like to see is intellectual property, NFTs surrounding computational biochem, or just biochem in total, that save lives by researching rare diseases.
I think that also the orphan drugs have a similar property to, like, in blockchain, like we had to go through a ton of different ideas, and each of them got funded at a very early stage. Um, this idea of like making these type of venture capital type investments much more liquid and having active markets for them from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, very powerful, especially for that exact use case. I love that idea.
Yeah, well, it's the same return profile anyway, right? Like the drug either doesn't. The drug, if the drug doesn't work, you have to go back to the drawing board and try again next year. And if the drug works, you make 1,000x. I mean, it's the same thing, But because the healthcare regulation in the United States is the way that it is, But I believe it will happen. I believe that it will happen. I believe that we will democratize access to biomedical research, and I think that's like the kind of thing that I would work on and like die happy if I accomplish that. For sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Great answer to that question. We have another question. Crypto Kraktos. Hi, Jack and Garrett. Are you working with NFTs on Cosmos? What module are you guys using? Iris NFT or your own custom module? Crypto Kraktos has some great news. We just merged an NFT spec and module into the Cosmos SDK that will be supporting NFTs on Cosmos very soon, in addition to the Iris ones. And there's also been a cross-chain working group with Iris included, as well as a couple of other chains to do NFTs over IBC. There's we're going to do some work probably within the next 2 months, probably not going to start it for about a month or two, to add NFT support to the Gravity Bridge as well, so that you can move Ethereum NFTs back and forth across the Cosmos. So great question, and thank you for asking. So Garrett, you also said you had some questions for me. Please.
Oh, I have a point for Crypto Kratos, just really quick. I just want to shout out Michael Sofair. Who I believe is doing some nice work in this area as well. But ultimately, my NFT knowledge on this is limited. I just think it'll be nice because the bridge will allow for regen carbon credits to go to Ethereum. And people on Ethereum are crazy. Like, they'll just build whatever. So I'm sure that they'll have a field day with that. And vice versa. It would be nice to have your NFTs in a way. And if you're building that, we should probably talk about integrating that into the company as well, because we have to, build a bunch of wallets. I guess that would live in Kepler, right? I mean, they would just be like a...
Well, the current kind of best-in-class cross-chain experience is you move from Kepler to MetaMask.
That's tight.
It's nice. I think that I haven't seen a better way to do it. Let me go ahead and say that, because wrapping that entire experience in one wallet currently kind of challenging, because Kepler and MetaMask are kind of best in class on both of those networks. So like, how are you going to get a consistent experience with one wallet? I think the Terra Station folks are kind of trying to do a little bit of that, but they've ended up actually relying on MetaMask too. So it's that's a hard user experience problem that's just going to kind of get easier with time.
Yeah, well, it's a hard asset problem as well. And there is a pun there. But what questions do I have for Jack? I think I would like to ask Jack, like, what do you think? I mean, with regards to your work in the validator space, which is obviously like super prolific, and with Sommelier, like, how do you envision NFTs and just non-fungible assets in total, like for financial instrumentation, as well as like, how are they impacting your work in like the non-artistic sense? I think.
Yeah, totally. I mean, when Uniswap v3 was announced, we completely dropped what we were working on and started working on Uniswap v3.
Yes.
I think non-fungible tokens. How many things in the world are actually really fungible? And the answer is, it's like not a lot. The things that we make as humans might be fungible. The Polaroid before it's got a picture on it is fungible. But after it's got a picture on it, like, it's a memory. And I think that there's very few things in this world that fungibility actually models. And we're trying to shove a lot of things that aren't fungible into this ERC20 standard, into fungible tokens. And like, this idea of fractional ownership is very powerful for people. But with a lot of what we've talked about today between all of these different use cases for NFTs, they're going to become more prominent in modeling these financial assets. I think Uniswap v3 is kind of the beginning of it, and we'll just see more and more of that. And
what did you dropped some NFTs to some Sommelier apes, did you not?
Yeah, we did. You know, Tariq led that project, but we, you know, commissioned an artist and dropped some Sommelier NFTs, which are really cool. The Sommelier logo, which you can kind of see up in the right, has this kind of flowy thing wrapping the Ethereum logo, and we've actually used that kind of flowy thing to wrap, you know, the Cosmos logo and the Uniswap logo and a couple of other things, which is kind of fun. So there were a bunch of those different flows that we turned into NFTs and giveaways.
And
you know,
and do those provide like special access points or rewards, or is there like a community incentive to holding them? I mean, how is there like an interface with user participation? Because I think NFTs are really fascinating as a from a gamification of like DeFi perspective, like when you're able to do like reward early adopters, right?
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah, like Parallel NFT did a great job on that, where like they just kind of release these trading cards and we're like, okay, if you like them, buy them. And I bought a ton of them because I really liked the artwork and it reminded me of, you know, video games I liked, like Metal Gear Solid. And then
I mean, it's basically Magic. There's five Parallel NFT races, and there's five. Oh yeah.
Do you really?
Oh yeah.
You should come to the Parallel NFT Discord, because every Monday the guys play Magic and you can win NFTs that work in the Parallel game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I need to do that. Yeah, I mean, Tyler and I grew up, and what we did all the time was just play Magic cards and then D&D for a while too. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I remember I used to buy Pokemon cards so that I could, because like back when Pokemon cards first came out, you could just like open a booster pack and sell the constituent cards for more than the booster pack.
Yeah,
and I used to do that and then use the proceeds to buy Magic cards.
No way!
I had a foil Charizard at one point that I sold for like
baby.
200 bucks.
Oh my god, no, totally. I remember vividly my first holographic Charizard booster pack. I was 7 years old. I must have been. I was in a mall with my mom in Alexandria, actually, and I was going up the escalator behind my mom into a Macy's, and I pulled a Holozard. And it's one of the most graphic memories of my childhood.
It's a vivid card. Like the art on it's sick, and when it's holographic, like really cool.
It was terrifying. I felt like everybody in the mall was gonna like try and murk me for like my card. It was like that valuable to me, and I was like at 6 or 7, just like with it was like put in my pocket. But yeah.
That's kind of amazing. Posthuman points out that he still plays Magic the Gathering, which is great. So maybe we should all join over on that Parallel NFT Discord.
I've never played Magic the Gathering in my life. I'm just fascinated by all of this, to be honest with you.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. I think that's cool. So you're bullish on NFT card games and stuff like that, aren't you?
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I used to play a lot of video games, and I think at a certain point in my life, coding kind of took over all of that video game, like mental energy and time.
Yeah.
I mean, I still play Stellaris is kind of my, like when I need to go play a video game, that's kind of what I tune into. Stellaris and FTL are kind of my two go-tos these days. But, you know, that all my cousins and all my young cousins all play these cool video games, like, I heard about this thing called Rust recently, which just sounds kind of wild. There's just so much opportunity there for creativity and ownership with these NFTs. Like, that's going to be such a massive space. It's hard to ignore.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, I fully expect Grand Theft Auto 6 to basically just be a blockchain game. Like, I fully expect in 5 to 6 years.
God, if Rockstar did that, they would crush so hard.
Yeah, they would, because I mean they can. Yeah. I mean, right now they're bleeding GTA 5 for all it's worth. I mean, it's been out for 10 years. They just keep releasing it. But like, there is going to be a world where you will be able to like exchange in-game assets for other assets in other games, and that's going to be the craziest thing ever, because that's a story as old as time itself too. When I was playing Final Fantasy 11, you know, there were these guys that would run around and like get like the nicest gear to like go get wood. Like just they would, that's all they would do. That's all these guys would do is get wood, and they would sell it for real money. And that blew my mind, like that people would pay real money for like in-game items. And now, because of computer science, magic, and cryptography, there's like these incredible ways to do that don't have to go through PayPal and stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. I ran into that for the first time on Diablo 2 and EverQuest.
What happened on Diablo 2 and EverQuest?
Oh, people used to go farm and sell gold. You know, you go
really?
raid all these dungeons and, you know, sell the gold. And that was a huge thing. And then, I mean, also in EverQuest, like EverQuest just had these huge grind, like 30 to 40 was the levels, 30 to 40 was like this huge grind. And, you know, people would go grind, like level up a high level character, go get a bunch of gold, sell it to people who were like grinding through the 30s and 40s. In-game economies, like it's what we're working on now, but you know, the game is a little bit different.
Yeah, I'm extraordinarily excited for that.
Yeah,
it's
the play to earn thing kind of relates to that as well. I think parallel NFTs kind of in that area, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. They're play to earn, but Axie Infinity, obviously Shredded, Decentraland, and things like that. Not purely play to earn, but I don't know, man. It's just such an exciting time. I don't know how to explain it, because it's like DeFi is nice, but it's not really that fun. And like it's fun, but it's not, I don't know, it's not childlike fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a different kind of fun. It's like, you know, like hopping from yield farm to yield farm, or like lending. I mean, these are really amazing things, but like, but not, it doesn't inspire. Like I would feel like, I think like something that I like to do in my life is feel like I would inspire people that are in kindergarten or like second grade. You know, and I think the way that you do that is with like insane imaginative stuff. I think that the last thing that like young minds care about is like money, and you know what I mean, like, and it's kind of like, I find the thought and the imagination and that process to be kind of my favorite part about working in this space, and just like the authenticity behind it too.
Yeah, totally. I mean, you don't think up the idea of minting carbon credits to save the world based on satellite imagery on a blockchain, and think like, I'm going to do that to make money. You do that because you're like, I want to make sure that the earth doesn't burn, and like all kinds of other reasons. And what you don't think about is all of the time somebody spends in yield farms raising the money to make that dream happen. Really good point, Garrett. Okay. We are way over our normal time.
I'm sorry, Jack.
No, nothing to apologize for. This is the most fun I've had on an episode in a very long time. So, Garrett, thank you. I really appreciate that.
I would like to drop one thing.
Yes, please. Yes,
and it's related to the kind of just what we talked about the imagination and making the world a better place. And like, I really believe there's two sayings that I really believe in. One is like, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So if you're doing something that's hard, it's worth it, you know, like just keep going. And two is like, be who you needed when you were younger. And I find that like now that I'm 28, I feel ancient, you know, and like I talk to people that are 21 and 22 in this new generation of Gen Z and crypto and stuff. And it's like, if you're making money in this market and you're doing good things, like, two things: one, manage your risk, but two, like, take that money and like do things that you would have needed when you were younger, and like put that out into the world. Because I find that like things like Regen and you know, application specific blockchains on Cosmos in particular, like they really do strive to do things. and I am so angry and so frustrated by people that have come into this space with like the most amazing technology and the most amazing opportunity, and it's so driven by greed and so not mission based. And I think that that's sad, because the earliest Ethereum people, the earliest Cosmos people, the earliest Bitcoin people, whatever, you know, people like Gregory or whatever, and like, and yourself and Zaki and all of these people, like Tarek as well, like Tarek is an OG. Like
Tarek is an OG.
Like they got into this space to make a difference. So like if you're in here and you're making money, like you need to go use that to make a difference, and not just in your own life, but like in the world. That's my like closing remark with all this.
Well, I cannot imagine a better note to close on. Take that light out into the world, folks. Okay, with that in mind, please go join Sisla and OmniFlix Media's testnet. It's going to be awesome. And check out app.sommelier finance. Thank you very much, Garrett. We got to do this again sometime.
Every week.
Yes, I know. So speaking of next week, let me see my calendar here. I think we already have a guest booked. We have next week, we've got the folks from Cosmos Cash to come talk about community banking and community banking on blockchains. Beautiful. It'll be great. Anyway, awesome. Garrett, thank you very much. And we will see you folks next week.
All right. Later, Jack.
Later, Garrett.